Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money, saving money, building generational wealth, and financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. On this channel, everybody, I typically try to give you an MBA six-figure worth of investing and financial knowledge for free. But every now and then, I try to change it up. And I always try to change it up when I'm talking with people that I would say are legitimately killing the game. And this is a conversation I've actually wanted to have for a while. If you watch Financipation, you'll know that roughly 90% of the stuff I talk about is typically about index fund investing, mutual funds, bonds, stocks, real estate, land, property, and things like that, because I truly believe that financial emancipation, financial freedom is a ministry, and that if a person is not beholden to a company, to a job, to a husband, to a toxic wife or whatever, if they understand how finances truly work, it's a freedom that literally goes beyond words. Because if you can tell your boss, I don't like how you're talking to me, and literally leave, and for an entire year not have to worry about where your money is coming from or how you're going to survive, that's a certain freedom to that I believe all people should have. But you'll also know, if you watch my content, that roughly 10% of my content deals with relationships and things like that, because at the end of the day, the woman or the man that you're sleeping next to every night literally can make or break you in regards to how much money you're saving and what you're doing with your life. So one thing that's kind of scaring me, that I'm noticing, that there's a lot of content out here coming from a lot of men that, in my opinion, is just pure garbage. Some people call it the red pill community, some people call it the purple pill community, some people call it the manosphere, whatever you want to call it. But I honestly think that a lot of the stuff that people are saying out here about how to get women, how to keep women, relationships, marriage advice, for lack of a better word, it's all BS. It's pure garbage. And me and his brother right here, me and Will, we've actually kind of talking off and on for a while now about just some of the absolute trash advice we're seeing from a lot of these Manosphere YouTube content creators. And real talk, if the late great Kevin Samuels was alive, he probably would be disgusted by like 90% of the stuff that these guys are making, to be real with you. So to my ladies, we're not going to talk about the feminism aspect today. We're going to be talking for the most part about masculinity and the manosphere and things like that. So with that, let's get started. Will, first and foremost, I know you very well, man, just from a lot of ways, just some of the conversations that we've had offline and everything. So, but first off, introduce yourself, Will. I guess, who are you? Introduce yourself to my audience, okay? Who are you?
All right, my name is Will Strong Jr. I'm a retired Army chaplain. I served exactly 18 years and 10 months in the military. I've been married almost 29 years to my college sweetheart. My first two jobs in the military were air defense artillery, and then I reclassed to aviation operations specialist when I was as an enlisted soldier. I was an NCO, non-commissioned officer, and then as an officer in the military, I was a chaplain candidate, and then a chaplain. So, I mean, I loved being a soldier. I would have stayed in; they would have kept me, but I was too hurt after my second brain surgery. The Army says I was no longer fit to continue military service. I got the letter in the mail. And I was in denial because I was like, hey, I said, maybe they'll keep me. My wife says, no, baby, you're too hurt. And I got the letter and it had my name, rank, social security number on there. And I saw that, I cried like a baby. But it's all right. It's all right. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I still do ministry. I still preach at churches and stuff like that. And I still do counseling and stuff like that. But yeah, and I'm a big proponent of marriage. I'm a huge proponent of marriage. I understand that's how you build make a strong society / community. You can't do it without a nuclear family. I don't care what society's telling you. You will never see a society thrive doing the things that we see people doing now, not getting married, having a bunch of babies with different men and women. That's just stupid. It's foolishness. It just is.
I agree. I agree, Will. Let me ask you this. I come from a very strong military background. It's kind of funny. Everywhere I go, people always ask me, how many years did I serve? What branch was I in? And literally, today when I was at Lowe's, I had about 4 people stop me and ask me, was I a vet? And it happens everywhere. I don't really know why, but it is what it is. Full disclosure, I came very, very close to joining the military on 2 separate occasions. One when I was 18 and one when I was 22 and just graduated my engineering degree. Both times my father talked me out of it. It's a whole story. I met David Goggins on one of those occurrences, the whole conversation behind it in Philly. But quick question for you though, Will, because I grew up in a military household, both my parents did over 20, my mom did 22 years, my father did 21. When you got out at 18, the military did give you a lot of the benefits that you would have got if you stayed in for 20 years, I hope, correct or no?
Correct. Yeah, I was hurt. So I was medically retired. So I got my pension, which was really good. The difference is because I didn't do 20 years of full-time active duty service, I don't get both. I do get both. So the VA gives me what they do, they give me both, but they deduct the VA side from my pension. So I get both, but I don't get both. Now, if I had 20 years of full active duty, I will get my full pension from there and then plus the VA. So it'd be additional. But I'm not complaining. I do okay. And so I don't complain. But yeah, I got my, by the grace of God, that was the biggest concern for me because I was really hurt how I was going to take care of my family being hurt as I was. But
Gotcha.
God took care of me. Took care of me.
Oh, gotcha. Did you see combat at all in Operation Enduring Freedom, or did you go?
No, what happened, I developed a condition. It wasn't because I ran from a deployment. I developed a condition get called hydrocephalus at 35 in 2010, which made me non-deployable. So hydrocephalus is an excess amount of fluid in the brain, which causes a
Gotcha.
lot of problems. Um, Causes a lot of problems, very serious, but it's not compatible with military service. And also it made me non-deployable. Even though I was a chaplain, I could not deploy because if something happened, it would become a medical emergency. So no, but I went places that people didn't want to go. There's got deploy. I went places that people hated, like But that's the here there. Yeah, that was
No,
yeah.
thank you. I want to say, on behalf of a kid who grew up in a very, very stringent military household, I absolutely heard drop and give me 50 multiple times in my life. My parents believed that I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes to work out with them. I know what physical training is as far as getting up and running multiple miles. My father actually could probably beat me in a foot race until I was about 15, and I ran high school track and was very good at it. So I grew up in a very military-based household. So first and foremost, thank you for your service, sir. I think America would be a better place if a lot more people went to the military. I do truly believe that. I don't know if it's necessarily say we should have a draft, but I do think that being around military environments, it gives you a different perspective about what it's like to be an American. And also gives you a different perspective about some of the opportunities that this country does afford you. And I think that the country would be better off if a lot more young men and women had the privilege and actually did join the military. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit as well. Will, you just kind of introduce yourself to my community and to my audience, and I also want to ask you another question. Your upbringing, like what made you want to join the military? Obviously, you're a chaplain, so you come from a very religious. You're a very religious man. Like, describe your upbringing, I guess, to me.
Well, my parents were married. My parents got divorced when I was 9, so I lived for most of my mother, and so and well, I lived with my dad sometime, but most of my mom. But what made me want to join the military is I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college, and so I called a recruiter. I was working at Goodyear Automotive Center in Calumet City, Illinois, and I had to drop out of college because I couldn't afford it. And that's because I didn't do some of the things. We didn't have like a lot of money. I just didn't fill out some of the stuff I needed to fill out, but I didn't know. So I got talking to a guy. I was working on his car. He told me about what the Army Guard, what the National Guard did for me. And of course, I was 19 at the time, and I was like, "Really, really? You do this, you do this." He says, "Yeah, you're a big, strong guy. You go to basic training." And he just downplayed basic training, like it was no big deal. Like the drill sergeants, they yell at you a little bit. And I remember, so I called a recruiter, and it was crazy. When I got off work, I called a recruiter, and I remember he answered the phone. He said, "Sergeant First Class Torrey, National Guard Command, can I help you, sir, ma'am?" And I remember, and I was talking so fast. He said, "My name is Will Strong Jr. I want to join the Army today." He was like, "Slow down." I said, "Okay, my name is Will Strong Jr. and I want to join the Army today." And so he said, "Okay, give you my name and how old I was and where I live." The very next day he came out. That was a Tuesday. Came out on a Wednesday, and then that Friday I was taking an ASVAB, and then that Tuesday I was swearing in. And then I wound up going to basic training in February of 1994. And that was a whole eye-opening experience for me as the drill sergeants didn't play. And I was terrified because I remember one drill sergeant he said, "Private, I'm the closest thing to God you go see while you're on this earth." And he said, "You don't believe me? Watch this." And we all be standing out in a gaggle circle and stuff. And he would walk in the middle of us, and we were part like the Red Sea, like Moses did with the Israelites. We were part and make room for him. And yeah, I think every young man, this is me personally, I think every young man, more so than women, but I think every young man, unless you got a plan, should have to go through that to be broken down, to be built back up. It instills a certain level of discipline in you.
Yep.
And
It's actually interesting. Well, my mother was a drill sergeant. And my father was actually the disciplinarian in our household. So that kind of tells you just how strict and regimented my childhood and my teenage years were. My mother was the drill sergeant, but she was more so the loving one in my household. So yeah, it was it was crazy. Let me let's back up a little bit more as well. Masculinity and everything. What, in your opinion, Will? And I love what you said about men. There's a lot of things that they can probably join the military. What, in your opinion, Will, is the purpose of men in our society? Period.
Well, the purpose of men in our society is that we are leaders, and it's just biblical. We are supposed to lead. I say this. I don't care how people feel about it. When things hit the fan, people looking for strong masculine leadership of men. They're not looking for women to lead us. And any man said looking for a leader, I said no. But men are supposed to be providers and protectors. I have a daughter, and if my daughter ever gets married, I want that man. That man will be a leader. He will be a protector. He will be a provider. I did it for my wife. You know, I'm pretty sure you do that for your wife.
Absolutely.
God has a purpose. I share this story with you, brother. You know, I get so frustrated when people do this egalitarian nonsense. One time my wife wakes me up. She says, "Will, wake up, wake up, wake up." And it's like, I'm like, I wake up and it's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, baby, I'm trying to get a car, but I say, it's 2:30 in the morning. She says, there's men in the house talking in the hallway. And of course, I'm like, I hear these men talking in my hallway. So I jump up. As I get up, I'm going to the door to go confront. My wife goes, she whispers, she says, "Don't get shot." And she runs into the bathroom and locks the door. And so what happened, my computer unslept itself, but at night, everything's intensified, the vibe's intensified. But my point is, I didn't say, "Hey, baby, you go check that out."
No.
We don't do that as men. And that's the whole, I share that story because there's an assault on masculinity. It's an assault. They want men to be like women, but women don't respect that.
No.
And we need to be men, and we don't allow a woman to define what a man is. If you are adult male, you are a man. XY chromosome, you are a man, and you need to operate as a man. I think the problem is, I don't want to get too on a tangent, but I think the problem is that we have feminized our society so much. And I think what we need to understand about this, the more a man becomes feminized, the less of a protector and provider he is.
And less of a leader he is as well.
Yeah. So, but God has a role for us, and we need to embrace that role and walk in it. I will walk in it with my kids. My boys have seen it. They've seen it. My boys will tell you, "Dad worked hard." They appreciate that. Your kids will say the same thing about you. You set an example. So what I try to tell my boys, and you understand this, as men, we don't get to operate in our feelings. We don't.
Nope.
A woman can do that, but men, we don't. Society doesn't care about how you feel as a man. We understand we have to produce, we have to actually be productive. And that's why I'm always on my boys, say, "Hey, be productive citizens." My older boy, he's a tradesman.
Nice.
He's got 2 trades, industrial maintenance and electrical.
Nice.
He makes money. He works as an industrial maintenance mechanic. And then my younger boy, he says soccer career thing's over. He's done three pro soccer combines, but his leg keeps getting messed up. He says, I think he's done. But he works as a lead at a local manufacturer. He's the youngest lead in the plant. And
nice.
He's got guys in 40s underneath him, and they love him. He likes them, and they work hard, and they make decent money. And I'm proud of my boys. I'm proud of my boys.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, I agree so much with this. It's kind of funny. My father, I had a podcast with my dad about a year and a half ago that I did with him. And my father is 71. He actually legitimately was in the first high school class that integrated in society. I think he spent his freshman year at literally all black high school in Indiana. And then when desegregation happened and they basically integrated the high schools, he was the first class to basically go to a high school with white people, for lack of a better word. And it's really interesting talking to my father about like growing up in that society and stuff like that, and what was required of men like him and my grandfather, who actually legitimately saw black men get lynched, legitimately saw a black guy getting lynched when my grandfather was a little boy. It's interesting hearing my father and my dad and my uncles talk about like what they had to go through and live with and experience in corporate America, and sadly, yes, in the Army, and then saying some of the stuff that men say today about it. It's just such a weird dichotomy of like just masculinity versus the lack versus the non-masculinity. And my father's also, when you say that about protect, provide, and leave, when I asked my father what's a man supposed to do, that's exactly what he told me in that podcast. Chris, God put us on this planet to do three things: to protect our families and our communities, to provide for our families and our communities, and to lead. And it's funny, you being a U.S. Army veteran as well, that you and my dad literally said the exact same thing. And that's what I see lacking from just a lot of, I hate to say this, a lot of men today, because from my experience, women are perfectly capable of working 100 hours a week like a man is. They can do that. Why would they want to? If they don't have to. But from what I've noticed, just from my experiences and everything, is that generally speaking, if a woman meets a man who can provide for her to the point where she doesn't have to work 60 hours a week, she does not have to basically deal with the stresses and the isms of sexism and racism and colorism and everything else in corporate America, a lot of women are perfectly okay letting a man literally be the provider for them. And like you said, my wife and I recently had a situation where I more or less was ready to, I'll just say it like this, I was ready to go because we had an individual more or less threatening us. And as a result, my wife did not have to basically protect the family, if you will. I was literally ready. I'm actually trained. I'm an NRA certified weapons instructor, both pistol and rifle, and I've done martial arts for over 20 years. So my wife knows for a fact, okay, if my husband needs to protect me, I am legitimately trained to do that, and ready for my with my Second Amendment rights, as well as my physical nature. So as a result of that, my wife always says she feels completely safe when she's around me. And from my experience of being around women, they want to be with the guy who they know can protect them. They want to be with the guy who B can provide for them. And most women that I've ever met in my life, they like the idea of a guy says, baby, don't worry about it. I got a plan for the night. Baby, don't worry about it. I'll solve this. Women like when men lead them. And I'm not saying that to try to belittle women, but generally speaking, I've never met a woman that doesn't like a guy who can protect her, who can provide for her, who can lead her. So ladies, right. If you're listening to this, we're not trying to belittle you guys. Yeah, we know you guys get the engineering degrees like us. Yeah, we know you guys can run for office like we can. We know all that stuff. But at the end of the day, most women prefer a man that can protect them, that can provide for them, that can lead them. And well, I like how you said that. And from a military background, my father literally says the exact same thing. My mother and my dad have been married for over 40 years. And like you said, my mother just takes tremendous pride in the fact that she married a real man. Let me ask you this, Will. In the assault on masculinity, a lot of times there are guys giving men advice about how to get women, how to sleep with women, how to get married, how not to get married, what to do with their finances, what makes you a high caliber man, whatever that means, a high value man, whatever that means. And a lot of this is coming from the Manosphere community. What are your thoughts, Will, on the Manosphere? I'm just kind of curious.
Okay. When I first heard the Manosphere, I think we talked about this on Facebook, but I thought, okay, it sounded okay. It sounded pretty positive, give men a place to speak about issues that we have as men. But I think that the movement has been hijacked by this nonsense. And it's become more of a MGTOW movement, men going their own way. And it's just off the rails. These men are talking now, they're never married like you and I, that what they're giving advice, but it's not leading to marriage, which I don't understand. When I give advice to people about relationships, because I've taught numerous marriage retreats and single retreats as a chaplain, one of the things what I taught as a chaplain is how to pick a partner, how to avoid marrying a jerk or jerkette. When I taught my marriage retreats, I taught the last way to better marriage and his needs, her needs, how we can get closer together. These guys are telling men to do things that are just detrimental to them and to their future wife if they ever get married. Because what they're telling men, which is a blast from the pit of hell, is that you can sleep with a bunch of women and it has no impact on you. That is a lie. Is it true that it affects women first and faster at first? Yes, that's true. But if a man continues down that same path, that the woman, he's got a hard time bonding with the one woman, being faithful to her and committing to her and being satisfied with her. Because the reality of it is, I don't care how good she is in the bed. She's not going to be better than 50 or 100 women you've been with, all those women. She won't. And people this is why I get frustrated with these Kevin Samuels groups now. And I see these guys and I feel bad because these guys, I'm like, I'm about to be 50 in a couple of weeks. I'll be 50 in a couple of weeks. I think you're in your third year, your upper 30s, your early 30s,
Yeah, yeah, late
these,
30s, late
yeah,
30s.
these men should, at our age, should be settled down, married, and provide for a family. Not trying to be a player, not trying to sit there and run through women, not saying that, hey, I'm going to marry a woman who's in her 20s when I'm 50 years old, which is okay. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I don't know. I haven't met too many women who desire to be with a man my age who's in their 20s. I don't see that. But as your point, make it to the point that like a broken clock, they're right twice a day. But I would not see these guys as not fruitful for you get the woman that you want. First of all, I believe that you should meet your woman while you're coming up. It is much harder to vet a woman when you got money. You don't know she right for the right reasons. So like I met my wife in college. I was a broke college student. I didn't have any money. Okay. So this woman has been with me since college. And I tell people all the time, back then we didn't have cell phones. So my mom could only afford to send me $20 a month. And I had my military pay, my guard pay was $80 after taxes. So I got $100 a month I had to make last week. And then I get $20. My wife and I go to a matinee for a movie that was like 350. And then we would go to a McDonald's or a Burger King afterwards and eat. That's what we did. And it was none of this fancy stuff, all this nonsense. But that's what we did. But again, the manosphere, I would tell if you want to get married as a man, do not listen to them.
Yeah.
You're not gonna and because there's another thing too. I will say this: these men are so delusional because they want to sleep around, but then they want a virtuous woman. Make that make sense. What virtuous woman do I don't know any woman who wants a man who's can't control has no penis control.
Right.
No penis control. What I don't know any woman who wants that. Second, the other thing too is that the guy from Fresh and Fit, Myron, he tells his listeners that the woman he's with is going to understand that he's going to sleep with other women. Now, if I would love to be on that show because I would say, well, any woman that accepts those terms does not respect herself.
Yeah. She's also a low value woman as well.
Yep, a low value woman. You're not getting a high value woman who's going to accept those terms. But this is the foolishness. This is why I get so frustrated because it's like a lot of men are buying in this. They're buying this. And it's all rooted in hedonism, pleasure. It's all about me. You know this is a married man. It is not all about you.
It never is. It's all about her.
It's all about her.
It's all about her.
You and these men don't understand it. Like, and I don't care. I'm like, I've had to leave a couple of the groups because I was like, this is pointless. It's worthless. I had to do what the Bible says. Stop casting pearls before swine. I had to stop doing it. It's delusional nonsense.
Yeah. What's interesting about a lot of these manosphere type dudes, I like, for instance, that channel you just got done mentioning, they're culture vultures, in my opinion. They're not even Black Americans, but they're talking, but that's the community they're trying to appeal to. Like, neither one of them are even Black Americans. And what's wild is that here in Miami, I know the exact building them dudes work. I built the building. I literally physically built the building and was one of the senior engineers on the building that they cast out of and everything. So it's a low value content in the fact that they're giving people advice that, for lack of better words, is going to cause destruction for their future kids, for their future wives if they actually have one, and also for the community. And what's interesting about a lot of these manosphere type dudes that you talk to, this is not a religious channel. Obviously, I'm a Christian. You're a Christian. But what's interesting is that I always tell guys, look, even if your whole quote unquote idea is to have as much sex as possible, do not listen to those guys for one very simple reason. If you start ingesting all this stuff that women are toxic, they're just going to take all your money. They're basically just here for a good time. They're not here for a long time. Women are low value. Literally, if you can be sitting across the table from a beautiful woman, that stuff is going to start coming out of you. So you're going to start offending the possible marriage partners that you have and either possible other partners that you have just by regurgitating some of the same lies that they're saying on this manosphere stuff. And another thing that's too interesting about it, Will, if you actually talk to some of these brothers, their entire mindset about women is literally to retire abroad and have sex with as many prostitutes as they possibly can. That's their ultimate goal. If you like talk to some of these guys, I've talked to a few of them offline. I'm not gonna tell you which ones. And I'm like, okay, what actually is your retirement plan from what you're doing? Well, I want to retire essentially like in Romania or Amsterdam or stuff like that, and just or Asia, and just have a harem of prostitutes running around. And I'm like, dude, what kind of sense does that make? Seriously. And I don't know about you, but the happiest men that I know are all kind of like you are, Will. They've been married for decades, just like my parents have been. And they basically commit to one woman, because the best sex you're ever going to have, fellas, is with a committed woman that you know has your back. When I had surgery, my wife was there for me. When I was messing around doing whatever, them girls were not there for me. They were there, like you said, they were there for a good time. It was not for a long time. And at the end of the day, to the guys that think that you're going to find a woman that's perfectly content with you sleeping around and stuff like that, you're going to find a woman that's perfectly content with you marrying a woman like that, I'll be honest with you, bro. How many women are you dating right now that are perfectly okay with that, knowing that you got 4 or 5 different women that is lined up, and those are actually legitimately good women that got your back come hell or high water? It's a friggin' facade. Yeah, it's just one of those kind of things where I think a lot of people are saying things and they're ultimately delusional. And another serious issue that I have with the manosphere, Will, and this is actually one of the things that drew me to you, bro. How many men do you see that are like, that got hundreds of thousands of subscribers making that kind of content, are good fathers? How many of those brothers do you know that say, yeah, I got a daughter at home and I'm teaching her how to basically pick a good guy? And one thing I loved about the late great Kevin Samuels, his daughter spoke very highly of him when he passed. And you could tell from the way that he was talking that basically he had a very strong relationship with his daughter. And most of these guys that I hear that are talking in this manosphere stuff, if they have a son, they never talk about them, and the kids don't speak very highly of them. Why? Because the life that they're trying to portray, they're trying to live, does not line up with the reality of who they are as a father. That's something, brother, that I actually really liked about you, because when me and you first started talking, I was like, yo, this dude is really, really into his wife, and it's obvious, and he's really, really into his kids. And that's something that is sorely lacking from it. Another quick example I want to give about the manosphere, which really turned me off. One brother was talking about, he was a high value man. He worked at McDonald's, he worked at Walmart, and he had 2 baby mamas, and he was telling them they had to come live in his 2-bedroom apartment that cost $700 a month, because he was a high value man. He could not understand why these women were not trying to get on his plan. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like the delusion was so sad and really pissed me off about this guy is that I know how he grew up. He grew up without a father in his home. So I'm like, dude, you're a bum, man. You're doing the exact same stuff to your kids that your father did to you. And I don't respect men like that. Simple as that. Let's keep it moving though, Will. Let's keep it moving. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but what are your thoughts on actually the Kevin Samuels? Because I kind of consider him, I don't even consider him part of the manosphere, to be honest with you. If you listen to some of his content, it was pro-marriage, it was pro-family. And if you actually listen to his content, a lot of it was not even dealing with the viral moments that you have. So what were your thoughts on that, on Kevin Samuels? I'm curious.
I think some of the Kevin Samuels things he said was correct. Some of the things he said I didn't like, but it wasn't because this is what I did like, and I do like the fact that he wanted to see Black people get married. I thought that was awesome. This is some of the things I had when he's the one that brought the high value type men. This is what men do, and I know what he was going with that. But again, it's been made taken off the rails. Now, I did not like when he said, "Well, high value men don't cheat, exercise options." I'm like, no, brother, that's no. So I think he meant well in some things, but some things I disagreed with him with. He knew the Bible, but I don't know if that he really believed it as much as he knew it. As he said he knew it. He said he was over three single ministries. He will quote the Bible, but again, he was talking to women who didn't really know the Bible, and they were trying to invoke God into something, but they were not really godly themselves. So I didn't dislike Kevin Samuels. I actually watched a lot of his content, but sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree with some of it, but I took some that I agree with. Okay, that's good. Some I'm like, no, that's not good. So that's what I said about him. I'm not going to disparage the man. He's no longer here, but I think there are other people you can. I'm gonna come from a biblical perspective. I'm never gonna come from a worldly perspective, and he did not come from a biblical perspective. He came from a worldly perspective. Now, I do like the fact, but the thing I like about Kevin Samuels, a lot of people don't remember this, and he was going hard on the men first.
Yeah, exactly. He went way harder on
the men, and I think people don't understand that. They all the women that get upset about it, no, Kevin was going hardcore on the men. hardcore. I mean, much harder than you went on the women. So
Way harder.
way harder. So, and that way, you need that. You need that because
Yeah.
he was telling you, hey, you got to provide some type of value. To be able to do the things that you want to do and attract women you want, you got to have some type of value. And I agree with that. I told my boys that. I said, you know what? You gotta be the men that you need to be so you can attract the women that you want to attract. And I'm not talking about like, you know, this Instagram model or something. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about a good woman who, like you said earlier, wants a man to lead her, protect, provide for her. That's what you got to do as a man. So I have no problem with that. That was straight up. That was spot on. I like, hey, he's right. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think like I said, I think some people and you probably agree with me. These people went off the rails. If he saw the stuff today, he'd be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He would shut down. I don't. So the stuff they're saying is just because I think it was Kevin saying his fans page. I left that group, but I was asked this question. I said, so when did Kevin Samuels become MGTOW? When did it happen? I don't remember him saying him being MGTOW. I don't remember him ever saying men don't get married. Go away. Don't marry women. I never heard him say that. I heard him telling both men and women, you need to be the man and woman you need to be so you can attract the woman and man you want. And he was trying to encourage marriage and speaking for black people. And I wanted to share this because I had prepared this and I knew you said something. You posted something on Facebook and it was about marriage has a direct impact on your median income as a median income. So
Well,
I want to share this
dude,
real quick. And you notice, and
well, the most married communities are the wealthiest. The poorest
yes,
communities are the most divorced, and it has nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with
no,
religion.
but
If
this
you
is what
stay
I
married,
found.
you
Yeah,
got money. If you don't, you're broke. Simple as that.
yeah. So this is what I found, and it happened. I can't remember the guy name. He was on Jamal Bryant's thing Instagram, and I happened to see. I can't remember his name, but he's good. He's a good brother. He said this is what he said: East Indians has a household median income of 124,000.
I did a podcast on that.
But their marriage rate is 94%. Their marriage rate is
94%.
94%.
Yep.
The second is Chinese Asians with a median household income of $109,000. Their marriage rate is 65%.
Yep.
The third are white people. White people with a median income of $81,000. Their marriage rate is 57%. The fourth is Hispanics with a median income of $63,000. Their marriage rate is 67%. And black people, we are the last. Our median income in household is $52,000, and our marriage rate is 34%. And it bothers me because, again, I keep going back to these Manosphere Red Pill community guys. You're doing the opposite of what needs to be done to build wealth, to build families, to build a strong community, to be a strong society. You do the opposite.
Yep.
You cannot build a strong society / community without the strong nuclear family. That is a mother and father married, raising children.
Yep.
So, and this is another thing I should share when I talk marriage retreats. A married man, you said something about we make more money, we have better sex, and we live longer than unmarried men.
Yep.
So I don't understand how these people are thriving and how these people are so delusional. I think I said something in one of the groups when I left. I said, you men are just as delusional as the women you complain about.
Yep.
You're just as delusional.
And just as low value as well.
Yeah, and low value. Oh man, these guys think they're high value. And your income has nothing to do with you being high value. I'm sorry. Yes, it's good to have money. Like my boys, both my boys, they don't make $100,000 a year. My older boy, he's been a tradesman for like 3 years. He makes in the 60s. And my younger boy makes in the high 50s. But he's only 23 years old. So by the time he's my age, he's gonna be way up there. He's already looking at ways to invest. He says, Dad, I don't want to work until I don't want to work till 65. I want to retire at 45. That's what he told me. My youngest boy.
So tell him to link up with me. Well, I'll tell him how to invest his money. He can get there 10 years prior to that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell him. I'll say I got a guy who will help you. I'm telling both my boys because I've been trying to get on them. Hey, you guys need to invest money. You guys need. You guys are young. I want you guys to have be able to retire early, be able to make. I want your money to make money for you. Oh, that's what I tell my boys. Yeah, but
It's
yeah,
it's
you're
it's
right.
it's, it's very interesting. Well, I did a podcast called "Why Immigrants Do So Well in America," and one of the overarching themes, and during financial I've talked to I've interviewed a lot of millionaires on my channel. I've interviewed 1 billionaire. I've interviewed some highly successful people, and it's been interesting because two things that I've noticed about very, very wealthy people, especially the ones that whose children are prepared to exponentially build on the wealth of their parents and their grandparents built, is that typically speaking, they get married and they have some form of belief in the higher power, whether it's Allah, whether it's Jesus Christ, like me and you believe in, or even whether it's even whether they come from like an East Indian background. Generally speaking, people that have a moral compass through religion and people that are married, they do infinitely better than people that don't. And one blessing about doing this podcast is I see that. So, for instance, according to Forbes magazine, Investopedia, The Motley Fool, and a few other people, married people on average have 35 times more wealth than single people. That's across the board, period. Children that grow up in two-parent households are 4 times more likely to move from poverty into the middle class. Children that grow up in single-parent, baby mama type households are 4 times more likely to move from the middle class into poverty. And it has nothing to do with race. So what I'm saying by that, people, if you're talking to some clown and saying never get married, don't never love these hoes, smash and dash, bone and gone, that's a recipe for disaster. I got married at 35. Well, you got married much earlier than me. I did it all. I was a single man in Philly, New York, Chicago, Miami, DC. I mean, I was a single guy. I did it all. And one of the things that I quickly started to notice toward the end of me being a bachelor was that why is it that the 30-year-old guys that I'm working with got multiple properties? They own houses like in Costa Rica. They're constantly their houses are paid for. But all of us guys that are still in the streets, that are still bar hopping and clubbing, we're still living in apartments. And when we do actually break that conversations about wealth and stuff like that, these dudes got like 6 and 7 figures in their retirement accounts at 31 and 32, and we're barely scraping 6 figures in our retirement accounts. And once again, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I'm from a somewhat affluent background in that what I make for a living. And this is on top of being an entrepreneur. But even with my salary, the guys that were married were doing significantly better financially than the guys that were not married. And on another tip, the guys that were married, they were dealing with a lot less stress because if you're trying to bounce and juggle 3 or 4 different women and you're trying to basically do a career at the same time, that's literally like having a second job. So even before I got into financiation, I started realizing, okay, there's something to this marriage game that goes beyond just the spiritual, because the men that are, like you said, that are married, they're building something much greater than the women are. I'm sorry, than the single dudes are. And like you was talking about with the communities that get married, obviously as African Americans, we dealt with Jim Crow, we dealt with slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, redlining districts, the war on drugs, all that kind of stuff. There have been serious impediments to the black man and to the black female in regards to us building generational wealth in this country. But when I see Indians and Asians come to this country and within one generation, they're living 10 times better than like all the white and black folks I know grew up in this country, that's telling you people that there's something to what these communities are doing. Yes, I understand racism exists. I'll never be a brother that says racism does not exist. But at the end of the day, everybody, if you get married and you build with a woman, you build with your family, you are going to position yourself and your kids for generational success. That's the reason why immigrants like Nigerians and Jamaicans, they'll come to this country and in 10 years, they living better than half the brothers I grew up with in my communities and half the, I hate to say this, blue collar white gentlemen that I work with sometimes, because those communities, they come in with the plans that we're going to take full advantage of the American dream. And it comes through marriage, everybody. It truly is the building block of our community. I mean, of every community, of every country. Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, they have a different mindset too. I was watching something. It was a young lady from Kenya. And the thing is, the parents, when they graduated from high school, they didn't do much. It was just like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And then going to college, that's what you're supposed to do in graduating college. What you're supposed to do. So they didn't make a big deal on you graduating from college or high school. They make a deal you graduating from college. And then once you went to grad school, they didn't make a bigger deal. But they had a different mindset of what you're supposed to do. And I think we need to have that here. I get frustrated because I've worked with I worked as a counselor. I worked with young black men. And it's important that if you don't have a father in the home, it's important that you have a male role model. who will help you. And I will tell you, I would talk to these young men and just try to get them on their way and say, listen here. Did, when I was a chaplain, I was an officer. I was an officer. I was a chaplain. I was an officer. People would come to me. A lot of these soldiers, my black soldiers, would come to me and say, "Sir, I want to be an officer." I said, "Well, be a chaplain. You have a master's degree. I have two master's degrees, but I said, you gotta have at least get a bachelor's degree to be an officer." And I said, if you do that, if you want to do that, and you get that, I'll write your recommendation. I'll write your recommendation to be an officer. Out of hundreds of officers I talked, hundreds of soldiers, probably 1,000 soldiers I've talked to about being an officer in my career. Out of those people, soldiers, only two people took on what I said. And those two people became officers.
Wow.
Two black people, okay? I get frustrated because I tell you what to do. If you do that, and what's basic, the Army is the most diverse officer corps in the Army. They're more diverse than the Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps. And then, Brother Chris, there were times, like I was only black chaplain. Now there were only 9 chaplains, but I was only black chaplain post at Fort Gordon, not Fort Gordon, but Fort Irwin. In my regiment, we had 130 some officers, 7 of us were black, and I was one of them. So that was so I felt the pressure to perform well because I didn't know how they may have had a black officer who was late. Because sometimes, let's be facing it, I'm not, even though my wife's white, I know, let me tell you something. I grew up in Illinois, Calumet City, Illinois. I was born in Chicago, moved to Harvey, then moved to Calumet City. While in Calumet City, the first time we lived in pretty much the black area. We moved from the black area to a place where the other part of the city was in '87. It was only 5 blacks in the whole junior high. Brother, I was called the N-word every day. Cars would speed up and try to run me off the road. This is 1987, 88. So when people sit there and say to me, well, the South is more racist, I don't believe that. The difference between the South, I've been in the military, the difference between the South and the North, in my opinion.
They make it clear.
The people in the South, they don't like you.
They make it very clear.
And I'm okay with that. I feel that's safer to me. The people in the North, they will act like they like you, but they don't like you.
What part of the North was it in '87, '88 that you lived in?
I lived in Calumet City, which is like 20 minutes away from Chicago, maybe 30 minutes down from, maybe 25 minutes from the Loop, downtown Loop of Chicago. But in Chicago, they have Cicero. Cicero was bad back in the day, too. Yeah. Cicero was horrible.
Yeah, Cicero, there's a really big race ride in Cicero, actually, where they basically ran, kind of like a modern day Rosewood, Florida. They basically ran all the black, just Google Cicero riots and you'll see,
Yeah, Cicero is not a place you want to be at. Well, it's probably better now, but back, and this is the '80s and '90s, man.
'80s, wow.
Yeah, yep. You didn't want to be there at night as a black person. That was just some places. I mean, so I'm not oblivious. I think the frustrating to me is like when going back to the Manosphere or whatever, you get a lot of these people, not Manosphere, but these Captain Sanya groups. You get a lot of people in there commenting about nonsense that has nothing to do with the argument, with nothing I'm talking about. I want to love people. I want to love God, love people. And I want to help you if you listen. My frustration is that guys are trying to say, this is what like Fresh and Fit will say, this is why I don't understand. Fit is supposed to be Islamic, Muslim. Fit, the other guy, will be a Christian. I'm like, and I'm thinking, no, you're not. And the other guy, I'm like, their whole argument is, well, we have to adapt with the times. Now, if you know anything about Christianity, the Bible doesn't adapt with the times. And if you know anything about Islam, they don't adapt with the times. They believe the Quran to be, you need to obey it, no matter what time it is, and same with the Bible. So I didn't understand that. But these guys, they justify their wicked lifestyles and their debauchery lifestyles that they live because they need to adapt with the times. And no. So I don't know. I don't know how I got from there to there about the racism. But I guess because I'm thinking about how on the Facebook, how I would talk and people would just make points about color of my wife's skin or something like that. That had an impact on like when I'm talking about marriage. And or the thing that bothers me, and I taught enough marriage retreats. Listen, generally speaking, we have the same issues when it comes to problems in marriage. Okay, um, black people are concerned about the same things when it comes to issues about marriage. Same with white people, Asian. It doesn't matter. There are general principles that work for every marriage, no matter what color skin you are. So stop trying to say because I'm black, well, it's different. No, trust me. If you're sacrificial in your love as a husband and wife, it's gonna go well for you. If you if you can still love your wife or your husband when you're upset with them, it's gonna go well for you. If a wife will respect her husband, it'll go well for you. If a man will love his wife, as Christ loves the church, it's gonna go well for you. If you can put your spouse needs above your own, when you do that, sometimes it's gonna go well for you. These are general principles that work in marriage. If you can be affirming to your spouse, it's gonna go well for you. Stop trying to put something that's detrimental and say that. Okay, I'll give you an example. We talk about marriage, right?
Right.
You remember, Russell Wilson, right? Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sierra. Now you got all the women, you got all these black women praying for Russell Wilson, right? But I flipped around. How many of these men do you know who are God fearing are praying for Sierra? And I would say zero. And so when Sierra's out there twerking and stuff, or she's wearing a birthday suit that's only for the bedroom, that is not in disrespect to herself, but to her husband.
And to their kids.
And to her kids. And I say something, why do you try to defend it as if, well, every marriage is different. If you don't have a problem with it, you should have a problem with it. These are black women are saying this. And I'm thinking, wait, hold. You are saying to me that is not, what you're saying is that is not disrespectful at all. And I'm like, and then I said, well, and the lady kept going back and forth. I said, wait a minute, these both of them said they are Christians. Okay, what God-fearing man? I'm sure your wife's a good looking woman. I don't think you'd be okay with your wife wearing out in public.
I'll be like, babe, you can go back upstairs and change.
Right, out in public where we're out in public where it's only meant for your eyes. I wouldn't be okay with my wife doing that either. And I was just saying, why would that? I said that is disrespectful not to just herself, her kids, but to her husband.
What's interesting, Will, I wouldn't even have to have that conversation.
Men do you know?
Yeah,
they'll be okay with his wife doing that. I don't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't even have to have that conversation with my wife. She would even consider it has nothing to do with me saying you need to change your clothes. Nah, she has too much respect for herself to basically even dress like that. So it's one of those kind of things where just out of respect for her, she wouldn't even dress like that. And in the same respect, if I was coming out the house wearing something that was just absolutely crazy, she would be like, Chris, you need to go upstairs and change. It's one of those kind of things. I just don't understand, like you said, that logic and everything in regards to I'm going to act like I'm single when I'm married. And to the people that want to behave that way, yeah, you can do that, but you're going to get a relationship and a marriage that basically is a laughing stock and a joke. Because I can tell you right now, no man wants to be in a situation right now like that's dealing with like a Will Smith or a Kevin Costner. And the men, the real men anyway, that's not a situation that we want to be in, period. You mentioned a point earlier as well, Will, about brothers, and I'll even look my white and Hispanic and non-black listeners into this. Where can we as men find positive role models? Because Fox News and the media focuses on the degradation of the black family. If you take a look across the board, any community that's in this country for more than 2 generations, their divorce rates are pretty similar, over 50%. So all boys across the board, for lack of a better word, are unfortunately not being raised by nearly enough strong masculine father figures. So if you are one of the boys that are growing up without a father figure, where can a boy find a positive role model? What would you say?
Well, I would say start with your local church, depending if you got men in there in the church. But there are community centers. I know we have one here called Jubilee. They have men that work there, and I've been meaning to go down there. But you need to look within your family if you can. You need to look within your family. No matter how bad a friend may be, you got some good men in the family, and you need to search them out. But this is key. The mother needs to help do that. It's hard if you don't have a good role model for your son or your daughter. You need to be searching out that. Look for men, maybe talk to some friends that maybe they were married, got good men. Do what you need to do. I mean, I try to do what I can do when I work with young people, and I pull them aside and talk to them and I meet with them, or I call them, and and just talk to them, just try to encourage them. The biggest thing I try to tell young people, no matter what color you are, do not have babies out of wedlock.
No, no,
Do not do that. And I said for black people and black females, it's worse. You have worse statistics with poverty. Is much higher. And do not do that. Tell the guys you don't want to do that. If you have dreams to do something, you don't want to have any babies out, and unless you're married. A key word is married. But yeah, you have to actually search people out. And what I did, okay, I'll use my example. What happened when I got Kingdom of Christ, what I noticed that a lot of my white friends had two-parent homes. And I hung around them, and I saw how the men operated in those homes. And it gave me a different perspective on what I wanted in my family. I didn't want to be a baby daddy or have a baby mama. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. I wanted a husband first, a father second, in that order. And I think I stuck to that. And I think it was better for me. Even though we got married young, I was 21 and my wife was 20. We got married young, Brother Chris. We got married. I was still in college. It took me 10 years to finish college because I got married, because I stopped twice. The third time I finished, and I finished when I was stationed in Germany. I flew back and I walked in 2013. And I like what the announcer said, all the way from Germany, Will Strong Jr. got my degree, and I felt so proud. And yeah, and then I went to, and then when I got commissioned as an officer, I was in seminary. Graduated seminary in 2007, and I got a postgraduate program I did as a clinical pastoral education, which allows me to be a chaplain anywhere in the country. I can also do family therapy and stuff like that.
Right.
I completed all my doctoral work except my dissertation. And so so I just think none of this would have been possible without having my wife by my side. She was there the whole time. And,
Absolutely.
And this is why I tell men, you alluded to this. Your wife had your back when you were down, has your back. My wife's wiped my butt, man. When I was hurt, when I couldn't wipe my own butt, she wiped my butt for me. When I had to go have surgery on my lung area, and I was laid up. I mean, I was in so much pain. My wife, and I felt bad, but my wife, she didn't mind getting up and tending for me.
Yeah. And sometimes, Will, the beautiful thing about it is not necessarily what your wife does; it's the stuff that she talks you out of doing. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna say on camera and everything, but my wife is legitimately giving me some advice that I needed her in that period of my life, because if she was not there, I would have done something to defend the place that we were at. And I mean, yeah, it's just like one of those kind of things, protect, to provide, and to lead. But the advice my wife gave me through two separate occasions, it literally has, I mean, literally, it was the best. It was something I needed to hear. That's all I'm going to say on camera, basically, at that particular point. And it's one of those kind of things where, dudes, you don't realize when you have a good woman in your life, it is a legitimate force multiplier on everything in your sex life, in your financial life, in your professional life, in your spiritual life. If you have a good woman laying next to you every night, financiation would not exist in the capacity as a monetized channel and a stream of income if it was not for my wife. I never would be the leader. The mechanical engineer runs literally billion-dollar projects if it was not for my wife. Because if I didn't get married, I would still be bar hopping and clubbing and going to happy hours and stuff. So, like, as a married man, it's like your life just exponentially increases. And another thing that happens too when you get married, and married brothers, we know this. There's a certain rite of passage that we go through when you get married. I'll give you an example. How many single presidential candidates have you ever heard of? How many single CEOs do you know of? How many single CFOs? How many single rear admirals or joint chiefs of staff in the U.S. military do you know of? Now, some people will call it the single tax, but at the end of the day, there's a rite of passage that men we go through when another brother gets married. It doesn't matter whether you're white, black, or Asian. And if you never get married, you never experience the joy of marriage, fellas, you don't realize that kind of stuff. And that's why I say a lot of these manosphere, I'm gonna call them clowns, The advice that you're giving you, they can't even live. They're not even living that life. And if they were living that life, they wouldn't be trying to talk about it online because it would be messing up their body counts. So people, a lot of that stuff is just toxic and it's just delusional stuff that they say so they can kind of drive up their numbers and avoid a lot of it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Will, you are a veteran. You're a husband. You're a father. You were a bodybuilder because I saw that picture you posted a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Whatever. Your boy was jacked. Your boy was yoked back then. Exactly. And you're an Army chaplain. What's an example? Give me 3 examples of positive masculinity, bro. And I love hearing this from my military veterans. My father has answered this question as well. Give me 3 examples of positive masculinity.
Positive masculinity is first of all, okay. First of all, a masculine man is going to love the Lord. He's going to love God. A masculine man is going to love his wife.
Yeah, nice.
He's going to love his wife. He's going to love his children. He's going to do whatever he can to provide for them, to protect them. He's gonna lead by example. He's not gonna be swayed too much. He's not gonna be overly emotional. Yes, we can be emotional as men, but we're gonna lead. We're gonna be in control of our emotions. Okay, we're not gonna be flying off the handle and so like that. So we just lead, be a servant leader. A servant leader. You serve the people that you lead. You want to be a good leader, you become a good leader by being a good servant, by serving them. And I use the example of Jesus when he, I remember, I was, this is kind of interesting. I came off active duty, I went to seminary. And in your seminary, you're not gonna have a lot of money because you learn how to trust the Lord and stuff like that. And I remember I took a job. I was a supervisor at Liberty University working at night, stripping and waxing floors, right?
Right.
And I remember I had my degree already. I had been an NCO in the military. And so I had already, and I saw these kids were like kind of looking down on me and I got kind of frustrated, like I wanted to say something. And I remember I complained to one of my guys, he was younger than me. And I'm supposed to be mentoring him. And I was, but he says, Will, remember Jesus washed his disciples' feet? I said, yes. Now think about that for a moment. And I thought about it. He said, now remember, you got the creator washing created feet. You got to remember the servant, that was a servant's job, the lowest of the low. And here you got Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And I felt so convicted. I'm like, oh my goodness, God, I should not ever be complaining.
Right.
So you learn how to be a servant leader. But that's the idea of what a masculine leader does. A masculine man does what I just gave you with all those examples.
So he's not bragging about his body counts. He's not bragging about how much money he has. He's not bragging about how many crimes he's gotten away with. None of that kind of foolishness. It's just
that's all foolishness. And I think what has happened with that, brother, is this. When I tell people I've only been with my wife, I said that to them on the thing. People will say, you don't. I said, no, I don't. I am so thankful that she's only known me and only known her. Of course, they have no comeback to this. So what they say, well, what she told you. I'm like, this is the problem when I'm dealing with godless men and women. See, I realize I'm dealing with godless men and women, so they don't understand that people can be faithful. They just don't understand that. They think that everyone's out there getting their cheeks clapped. A man's out there tapping out person's cheeks, and vice versa. And no one's been faithful. So their mind that no one can be faithful. And I think that's just nonsense. It's because we have a society that's more promiscuous than ever. So these men and women can't fathom that you can actually have discipline. They can't fathom it. So, my wife will tell you I'm more than enough man for her. She says, hey, and I always tell people, listen, she said, I don't have time to mess around. And I don't either, And, this whole thing, don't you get done? Yes, and you get charged? No. I said, my wife's good. I said, I'll tell you right now, she does a good job taking care of me. And we've been married almost 29 years, and she takes care of me. We do all right. I mean, so I ain't got to worry. I'm not trying to go anywhere else. And these guys need to understand that. Greg Cardone.
Hey, you know what's crazy though? Well, not to cut you off. But I know from my experience of getting married, because I had a different experience in regards to just coming back to Christ and coming back into the church and all that kind of stuff. a lot of my buddies I used to kind of roll with, they've actually reached out to me and said, Chris, I wish I could find a woman like your wife. Chris, I wish I could find one woman that I could actually trust. And these guys, I mean, they own their own law firms, their own engineering firms. They can literally fly in, quote unquote, the best of the best women. They can literally do all this kind of stuff. And they'll tell you straight up, I honestly wish I could find one woman that I could trust enough to actually commit my money to. And it's funny because a lot of these guys are talking this a big game about all the women they're laying with and stuff like that. But when it boils down to it, Will, they wish they could find a wife like yours who they knew that who they could trust. They wish they could find a wife like mine who they could trust. I wish I could find a wife like my sister-in-law, people like that, like my mother. So it's really interesting because on one end, the Manosphere talks a good game about, okay, we're bagging all these bodies and we're smashing all these women. But then if you really sit down and talk to these brothers, they say, yeah, I wish I could find one woman that wouldn't take my money and actually have my back. It's so crazy to me.
You're not going to find a woman like that. And I tell these guys all the time, you do not find a wife running through a bunch of women. You don't, it doesn't work that way. But these guys
find happiness either.
Yeah. What you're doing is you're setting yourself up to be disappointed because you thinking you're searching. Listen, I've had men tell me, like you said, I've had men tell me that, I wish they envy me. And they said they wish they could, because I said, I wish you did too. But, you fell victim to the nonsense that running through women and sleeping with women is going to have somehow satisfy you. Grant Cardone, he's a multimillionaire. He's about to be close to $1 billion almost. He said, this is why I listen to people like him when he talked about, he told his wife, said when he met her, he said, listen, I said, all I want you to do is don't ever try to get in the way of me pursue my dreams. I'm not going to cheat on you. I'm going to be faithful to you. Every married man that I've met some millionaires in my life. I'm not a millionaire, not even close to it. I met some millionaires, and the thing is, they're all married. They will tell you, those guys who have businesses, that their businesses took off once they got married.
This is one of them.
So I don't understand, like you said, these guys in the Manosphere and stuff, they're clowns. They're just straight up clowns, but they're godless men talk to other godless men, and they're believing this foolishness that running through women is somehow honorable. You make all this money so you can run through women, and but these guys are unfulfilled. Like you said, I don't get talk. I don't hang out, so I don't know what these guys. But I know from looking at these guys, he's not fulfilled. Myra's not fulfilled, and for his wife, for his girl to give him condoms so he can sleep with women. To me, that's a low value woman. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? Well, but that's okay. I guess. In his mind and those guys, but I hate to use him, but a lot of guys in those Manosphere, they believe in him.
I can tell you, even in the Miami area, it's crazy when a girl is going from your bed to another guy's bed to another guy's bed to another guy's bed, and then she's back in your bed again. There's no, you're like, okay, this is trash. You know that, and dating in the Miami area, that's kind of how it is. So it's just like, yeah, they're not fulfilled. You're with the person who could potentially give you a disease. You're with the person who could potentially get you robbed or whatever. You're with the person who could potentially get you killed. And there's nothing fulfilling to that. Whereas when you're, like you said, you come on to one woman, you make that thing work. There's a certain freedom in that goes beyond words. And that's why, like you said, so many married men are just so much more successful than others. And then because this is a finance channel as well, if you make $100,000 and your wife makes $50,000 or vice versa, you guys can live off the $100,000 income and then invest the $50,000 into property, into land, into index funds, into the S&P 500, and literally just build just insane amounts of wealth. That's how the Indians do it. That's how the Asians do it. And if you notice, you don't see a lot of them guys talking about, at least not online anyway, about in their versions of the Manospheres. They don't talk about this nonsense about don't get married and have a bunch of baby mamas running around. It's toxic and it's garbage.
Yeah,
completely. Let me ask you this as well, Will. Obviously, you're a believer. I'm a believer. We both believe in Jesus Christ. That doesn't make us perfect. That means we are imperfect beings trying to get better every day. If Jesus was alive today, and obviously he is, but let's say he was physically walking the earth and he called into one of these feminism channels, one of these Manosphere channels, what do you think? What do you think his thoughts would be on the Manosphere? Just start with that. What do you think Jesus would think about the Manosphere? Some of these YouTubers that are here. He called
when Jesus spoke, he spoke in parables, and he always answered a question with a question. So when guys, he can ask a question, I'm like, no, yes, you can. That's what Jesus did. Now, I'm not Jesus, you're not Jesus, but he did. So he would probably say, ask, so do you really think that's the best way? Or he would, so how is that going to work out for you having a bunch of, he would speak to your sin. He would obviously speak to your sin. I mean, but he would love you, but he would love you in truth. Tell you the truth about your sin, tell you the truth about yourself. He would probably call, if you want the people that want to be like the Manosphere guys, he would call you a whoremonger. He would call you a whoremonger, and um, if because I think the problem is that in the West we present Jesus as this emasculated, feminized Jesus. He
His
wasn't
brother was
tough.
a carpenter. He was a carpenter who hung out with thugs and goons and people that was
Yeah,
cutting ears
yeah,
off of fishermen.
but he would speak to it because he would let them know that feminism is out of order. It's not the best that God would want for you. And so when we talk about feminism, we got to be biblical when we talk about it. It's not biblical. It's a rebellious. It's rooted in rebellion. It's a Jezebel spirit, and any woman who's supposed to be a Christian is don't believe in this nonsense. He can repent. Any man who's supposed to be a Christian and following MGTOW and doing need to repent. Jesus would have a lot to say about it because it would because it undermines the intent of what God set up, a one man, one woman for life in marriage. So Jesus would speak. He would have a lot to say about it. That's what I think. He would address it.
Yeah, I agree with the feminism thing. Full disclosure, I do not have a daughter. I have two sons. If I have a little girl, I want her to have the exact same economic and professional opportunities as my boys. It's as simple as that. But nowhere in any society or any culture did it benefit the woman to completely take the man out of the household. And to be exact, if you want to look at communities where that happened, if you read slave manuals, the number one way slave masters said to completely break the black community was to castrate and murder the black father in front of his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So their whole concept to keep black people in chains was basically to denigrate and emasculate the father, the black father in front of his wife and his kids. That was how they quote unquote broke black people for during slavery. And we're doing the same crap to our communities today with this feminism stuff. That's my personal opinion about it. Economically, yes, I want my daughter. If I have a daughter, I want to have the same economic opportunities as my sons. But nowhere in the Bible do you see anything about God creating a separate Garden of Eden for Eve to go live independent from Adam. That was non-biblical. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of women are going to disappoint themselves if they do want to try to live a lifestyle completely independent of the good men that are going to present themselves, not the bums, not the pookies in the railroad. It's not about the good guys that are going to present themselves to them. So what are your thoughts, Will? That's my thoughts on feminism. What are your thoughts on it, Will? I guess.
Well, here's my thoughts on it. Unfortunately, it's rooted in a lie. God did not create man independent of woman and vice versa. God did not create us. He created us to work, be interdependent upon each other.
Yep.
We're like this. We need each other. We complement each other. I think, like I said, feminism has reared its head on all our society and even the church, because our society, as you know, is gynocentric. It's geared towards women. And you look at all the advertisers and stuff like that because women control how much money is spent. I think it's like 70 cents or 80 cents on the dollar that women spend. So, and advertisers know this, so they're not going to say anything that's going to offend women that probably needs to be said, but they're not going to say it because they don't want to lose money. So that's the problem, one of the problems too. But I think, and this is one thing that I would say Kevin Samuel said, but I agree with this too. I agree with this. I said this before he said it, so it's not something that's interesting to him. But women have their best opportunity to get the men they desire is in their 20s. It's not in their 30s and 40s.
Yep.
You have more leverage with men when you're younger and hotter. That's just the reality.
Yep.
Than you do when you're older and you're in your 30s and 40s. You don't have the same leverage. And I know women don't like this, but it's like a used car. You want a man to pay new car prices for a used car. You probably follow athletics. You know how you have the athlete that's really good, but he's toxic to the locker room.
Yep.
But teams deal with it because his talent. He helps them win.
Yep.
But what happens is once he starts declining, he's got two things he can do. He can either change the way he acts, or he could continue to be the toxic teammate. And what happens, if he changes, the teams will deal with him. But if he doesn't change, they just cut him. They release him. Okay? And then after he gets released or cut a couple, like once or twice, by the third time, okay, I got to change my actions or I'm not going to, or he may not give him another chance.
Exactly.
That's how it is with a lot of women. Feminism has really convinced women that they can be like men in that aspect, and you can't.
That doesn't work that way.
You're not saying that women are less valuable. I'm not saying that women are not capable. I'm just saying that what attracts a man to a woman or a woman to a man is not the same thing that attracts a man to a woman. It's not symmetrical. It's asymmetrical. So I think, but feminism itself has really, it's really buzzing because I see more and more of this nonsense on these podcasts of these women, and of course I realize these are low value women,
right?
And so I take it with a grain of salt. But everything that we have in our culture is done and operated by infrastructure is done mostly by men. It's done by men. Everything we sit in is done by men. I mean, I'm not saying that women are not valuable. I want people to hear this. I'm not saying that women are not valuable. Trust me, my wife is very valuable. My daughter is very valuable. Okay, Chris's wife is very valuable. Okay,
the live chat is going crazy right now. Well, I'm asking these questions that these people are sending me.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. They can go crazy. That's fine. But feminism, I think, is the devil. It's a godly.
It's very interesting, Will, because at the end of the day, and this is what I always tell women: if you want to live in a quote unquote society with no morals, most non-moral men want to be in a situation where they can have sex with a woman with no strings attached. And that is exactly what feminism has produced in our modern day society. Because ladies, there is no dating market, I'm sorry, for 35-plus-year-old women with other men's kids. Most men are not seriously lining up to say, yeah, I want to date that 41-year-old woman who makes $60,000 a year with 2 other men's kids. Men don't think that way. That's not the woman that we want. Guys will have sex with you, they'll sleep with you, but they're not going to marry that kind of woman. I'm keeping it a buck. Conversely, you can be a 41-year-old guy that makes quote unquote $100,000 a year, and you can literally date the 50-year-old woman or her 21-year-old daughter. As a guy who married a woman that was 13 years younger than myself and everything, I could have dated literally the entire gambit, whatever race, religion, and culture that I wanted to date, because I improved my own personal value. And when you factor in men that are gay, men that are broke, men that don't have a reproductive organ, men that are mentally incapable, mentally retarded, men that are physically handicapped, and men that are like Catholic priest celibate type guys, there are literally 10 women for every single heterosexual man in smaller rural communities. And if you live in the DCs, here in the Miamis, the Los Angeleses, the LAs, the Torontos, the Parises, they're like 20 heterosexual women for every 1 heterosexual man. So ladies, the numbers are quote unquote not in your favor if you want to listen to the feminism idea of you're the prize to be won. I can be 35 or 40 years old and still find a husband. Ladies, it doesn't work that way. And then on top of that, I have cousins and I have uncles that are literally in their 70s and 80s that have 7, 8-year-old kids, because at that age they can still produce babies. But at 40 years old, a lot of women that their era is past. So feminism to me has played a lot of women. I think it told them they could operate and move like a man, and they would get the same results, and it doesn't work that way. And this is the non-spiritual stuff. We start on the spiritual things. Will, you can talk more about that, but it creates brokenness in females and it creates brokenness in men. The difference is, as men, we can learn from the stupidity that we did in our 20s and kind of still have dating options. Whereas women, it's a lot harder. It truly is.
Well, here's the bar we got heard before, and it's really true. Men can see a younger man, see himself in a younger man, and he wants to help. He wants to help him, direct and guide him. Older women see themselves as younger women. That's the problem.
And they see younger women as threats.
Yeah, so they say to themselves, like, so you and I, right? You're 30, 37, 38, right? You got a 22, 20-year-old young man. You can see something in him. You can guide and direct him. You want to help. You literally want to help him because you're not competing with him.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll be 50 years old in a couple of weeks. I'm not competing with men my son's age. My sons are 27 and 23. I'm not competing with men. I'm not competing with that. So I can see myself in a young man like that and say, you know what? Let me help you, give you some direction, some guidance, what you probably should do here. I'm not trying to compete with you. So I'm not, you're not a threat to me. I'm not worried about it. But that's the biggest problem. That's what feminism has done, is that I think has made a lot of women devoid of reality. They're more delusional than ever.
I mean,
You know,
ladies, I hate to say this, but higher caliber men, we're not going to waste our time dating 40-year-old women. We can pull 21 and 22-year-old women, especially if they have the same mental kind of makeup as far as what they mentally think about. So, for example, I'll give you a personal example. The first time me and my wife kind of stepped out, and she's my girlfriend at the time, we walked into a room where there were a lot of women there my age. I mean, the entire house actually was there was women my age that pretty much were I didn't date them, but it was at that point where if I wanted to date them, I could have. And when they saw me walk into a room with a girl who was literally 15 to 20 years younger than almost everybody in there, they threw my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, daggers, because they were like, how dare this younger woman who we basically, some of them actually taught her, how dare she date a guy our age and our quote unquote caliber. Whereas, like you said, Will, when I see a brother at work, or I see a white guy at work, or I see a dude I'm playing ball with, or somebody I'm lifting weights with, or at a range with, who is impressionable, he wants to say, okay, Chris, how'd you get to this point in your career? How'd you get to this point with your YouTube channel? How'd you get to this point with your marriage? I don't view that guy as a threat. I'm like, look, bro, yeah, I'll help you. What do you want to learn? It's like as older men, our job is to teach younger men basically the rules of the game. Why? Because we don't want them to make the same mistakes we did. Whereas I find with a lot of older women, they unfortunately look at younger women as a threat. And the problem with that is that the mistakes continue to happen.
Yeah.
What you got two sons, Will? What advice would you give any man that wants to raise boys in this crazy society? Your sons are biracial as well. What advice would you give the men out here like myself? Because my sons are very young. What advice would you give us, I guess, about raising men in society?
First of all, you lead by example as the father, and you tell your sons to work hard and don't become entitled. You're not owed anything. We got to stop this. You're not owed anything. You get what you put in, and I think this is don't get mad at the results from not doing the effort, from not doing the work. So if you don't do the work, don't get mad at the results. I always tell my sons. So use my son's example. I always tell my sons that you cannot operate in your feelings. You need to be productive. You keep your physical appearance looking decent. This is a sore subject with a lot of people, especially women. For some reason, we don't want to tell women the truth. I have no problem telling my sons, and I'll tell my daughters, but I'll tell my sons that, hey, your physical appearance does matter. It's not the only thing that matters, okay? But that's the first thing people see.
Absolutely.
So you can't, you may be, and so you want to look like you care about your body. So my older boy, like he would, he's a good looking kid, but he wouldn't shave. He would just be on. I'm like, he would shave, and sometimes he wouldn't comb his hair, and I'm like, son, you're not a better looking kid, but you're making yourself look bad because you're not doing those things that you need to do. My younger boy, he's all about it. He always got a fresh haircut. It's nice, clean, looking nice, and he looks nice. And I'm thinking, and so my older boy, I'll be out there. But my point is, I want my kids to care. I want my boys and your sons to care. You want your son to care about how they present themselves. Okay, so don't be if you're going somewhere and you want to dress a certain way. Don't have your pants underneath hanging down to your knees. That's stupid. Don't talk like you got some sense, like you're educated, and be respectful. You can't control what other people do, but you control what you do.
Right.
And so I told my son, you're going to control what you do. So you do what you're supposed to do, and let it. And my biggest advice I'll get to my sons, and I will tell them this. My kids. I will say, do what you have to do, so you can do what you want to do. Do not do what you want to do first, and do that to second. So when I get to my kids, we go, we know, Dad. Do what you have to do, so you can do what you want to do. Exactly. So then why are you not doing that?
Gotcha.
See, so that's it.
What advice would you give the men out here who are raising daughters? I don't have daughters, I have sons. What advice would you give the men out here who are raising daughters?
Be the man that you want your daughter to be, what you want your daughter to marry. Because the reality of it is your daughter is going to marry someone like you. That's the reality. That's the reality. Your daughter will marry someone who's like you. And if you don't like the way you are, you need to change it. So because she's going to marry a man like you. And, of course, I expect my wife to, help her to be the woman she was to be because she's a woman.
Gotcha.
I can't teach my daughter how to be a woman. I
Yeah.
can't do. I'm not a woman.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Let me go to this chat because I'm getting some really good questions. I wish we had more time to cook because I want to respect for your time. But let me ask a question. All right. So, hello, Will. My name is Shane and I live in Atlanta. I'm listening to this podcast and it's funny to me. I'm a 25-year-old six-figure man that never wants to get married. I have a steady flow of three or four women on my sexual rotation and I love my life right now. It seems like you're happily married, and I think marriage is outdated and boring, but you seem happy. I'm happy about that. So why would a guy like me possibly ever want to get married and be with one woman for the rest of my life? This is Will. This is Shane from Atlanta.
All right, Shane from Atlanta. Let me ask you this question now. I'll ask you a question, but I will pose this to you. Do you ever plan on getting sick? Do you ever plan on getting hurt? You got a roster. Which one of those women are going to take care of you if you get hurt or sick? Because you can't guarantee you're never going to get hurt or sick. And like I shared earlier in this podcast, my wife has had to wipe my butt. Has had to hold my penis where I can pee because I couldn't sit up because of my pressure in my head was off. And I was laid up in a hospital bed. Okay. And at the end of the day, you just sleeping around is not going to be fulfilling. I don't care. You may feel that way now, but when you wait 20, 30 years from now, when you look back at your life, are you going to look back and say, I wish I would have gotten married? And, and I know we tell people, well, you can still get married. Yeah, well, some women, it's gonna affect the type of women you're gonna attract. So I can't. I will tell you, marriage will benefit you better than just sleeping around. You'd be more fulfilled by being a father, being a husband, being a father. But there's some decisions you got to make.
Got you. Powerful words, Will. Powerful words. I guess some advice I would get as a young brother. A lot of men, their journey to marriage, yours is kind of unique. Their journey to marriage is a little different. What I'll tell this guy is this. At the end of the day, Will, you hit the nail on the head. You want to have a woman in your life that's got your back regardless. Wilt Chamberlain is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And he famously scored 100 points. And he also famously supposedly slept with 20,000 women. Before he died, when he was on his deathbed, he said, if I could redo it, I would sleep with one woman 20,000 times instead of sleeping with 20,000 women at one time. And when I first heard that, it kind of blew my mind because this guy was like the Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal of the 1970s as an NBA player. Yep. This is a YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go into detail about, but literally, if you are a basketball player in the 1970s, the plethora of women this guy probably had at his disposal was insane. And when he died miserable and lonely, and said that if he could redo it, he would marry one woman for the rest of his life. And a lot of guys, particularly the ones that are more well-off and stuff like that, they'll tell you that a quote-unquote juggling is fun, but at the end of the day, they want a woman like you have, Will, where that has their back regardless. But brother, I think that ultimately you're going to get one day very lonely. Some of these women are going to hurt you in ways that are unimaginable. And I think eventually you're going to do what happens to a lot of us brothers, where we see a guy who's happily married with a family, who basically, and that woman has his back, and you're going to get jealous and envious. It happens to most players. Another thing too, nothing is sadder than seeing like a 60-year-old guy dying in a hospital by himself or dying in a nursing home by himself with a bunch of baby mamas that hate him and a bunch of children that hate him. I've been to funerals with guys that literally were fraternities that played pro sports, and like 4 people show up at their funeral, and that's including the pastor, because they have no kids, they have kids, the kids hate them. And on top of that, the women that they've had in their life all think they're scum. Brother, you don't want to go out like that, man. Try to find a woman, try to make it work with her. That's that's the advice that I'm giving you. That's an advice that Will's giving you as well. All right, this was an interesting question as well. I'm listening to your podcast, and both of you sound like outdated, chauvinistic men. I was sexually assaulted as a young girl by an uncle, and I don't trust men. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and their father's a deadbeat loser that is not in their lives. I'm a 35-year-old, well-educated, strong woman that doesn't need a man. So how does chauvinistic men like you feel that women today, modern women, don't need y'all anymore? This is Gina. This is Gina from DC.
Well, Gina's speaking from a place of hurt. So I'm gonna be nice to her. I think that it's unfortunate that happened to her, and I hope that person, I don't think got arrested or whatever. But the reality of it is, Gina, you can say that because you live in the United States. Only in the West can we say that we don't need men. even though the men has built everything is in it that you probably enjoy. So I will tell you, I'll be praying for you that you're, and because I'm not chauvinistic at all. I believe that, like Chris, that there are roles that men and women have, and we need to do those roles. And when we don't do those, when we try to say there's no roles, it has more confusion like we have today. And so now we have women trying to be men and men trying to be women. No, I believe as God has ordained men to lead, to provide and protect, to love his wife and his children. That's it. And that's all I will say to you, Gina. I will be praying for you. I will add you our prayer list. And I am so sorry that that happened to you. But I will say this to you. My wife was sexually assaulted by someone. I was molested as a young boy. And, I never talked about it until like a few years ago. And I just started crying. So I understand the hurt. And my wife was like, it was just, I had never told anyone. So I can understand you how you feel when it comes to that. This person was an older man. I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. This man was probably in his 60s or so, and I don't know how old he was, but I remember I was young because that's not my fault. He walked with me back to my where I lived, and the only reason he go into the house because I didn't have a key. But he was rubbing all over me. He did show me his private parts. So I'm just saying, I understand hurt, and it still bothers me at times. So that's it.
Yeah. First and foremost, Gina, my condolences to you about that situation. Hopefully the scumbag that did that to you got dealt with legally, and in other ways as well. Gina, Will, me and you have more in common than you think. Gina, something also I want to bring up. This is a statistic that somebody sent me. Now, some of these numbers, people have tried to deflate them, but this is essentially what we're seeing in general from the amount of people who come from single parent homes. I'll say this. You said you have a son and a daughter. So according to these statistics, 90% of homeless and runaway kids come from single mother homes. 85% of men in federal prisons come from single mother homes. 85% of children with behavioral problems come from single mother homes. 80% of rapists come from single mother homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from single mother homes. And 70% of high school and 63% of youth suicides come from single mother homes. Now, I'm not saying those statistics to try to belittle or to badmouth women, but what I am saying is this, Gina. You are putting your children at literally every statistical disadvantage in America by preventing them from having any type of positive male role models in their family. Girls need their father, just like girls need their mother. Boys, we need our father, just like boys, we need our mother. We need both. And if you're saying your baby father is a deadbeat loser, you don't need a man. Well, Gina, no offense, but you opened your legs up twice to this guy had kids with him. So how bad of a guy could he really have been? And if he is quote unquote as bad as you say that he is, you still should go out of your way to try to find a positive male role model for both of them, your son and your daughter. So yeah, I got a lot of other questions, Will, I could ask, but those two kind of I think kind of symbolize a lot of stuff that I've been getting. Okay, so financiation and everything. A few more questions I want to ask, so because I want to be respectful of your time. Readers or leaders, Will, what are 3 books you would advise my listeners to read?
Well, of course, the one I'm going to tell people is the Bible. Okay. And since we were talking about marriage, I thought about the books that I used, the 5 Love Languages.
Great book.
By Dr. Gary Chapman, and I think that's good for any person. You just know how you feel love, how you receive love. And then the last book I put down here was Left to a Better Marriage by Mark Gungor. That's something I facilitate when I would teach marriage retreats. And it's really funny. It's just how men are generally, how women are generally. And if you're not that way, you can just interpolate that, okay, I'm not like that, but that's okay. But those are things, since we did this podcast, I was thinking about marriage. So that's why I thought about books like that. I got a lot of my other books I will talk about be more like theological stuff. So, but yeah, those are 3 books I would recommend.
Got you. Phenomenal books. I would say read the book Blacks in the Bible by Dr. James Warden. I would say read the book, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. This is a finance channel, so I want you guys to get your financial literacy up. And also, I'm going to say another book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book teaches you how to get people to like you. It teaches you how to get people to think the way that you would like them to think. So those are 3 really good books, I would say. All right, well, let's say you had 3 dinner guests, dead or alive. Who would they be?
Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that. Well, I love to sit down with actual Jesus and talk to Jesus, like physically, talk to Jesus. Who else I would like to talk to? Who I liked? Because this wasn't one of the questions, so I'm trying to think. Um, I would like to talk to, Muhammad Ali.
He's on my list. He's on my list. Yep.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali. Um, and one more person I like to talk to. So it's Jesus, Muhammad Ali, and then I would like to. Oh shoot. Um, oh yeah, Jackie Robinson
Go.
or Hank Aaron.
42. Yep.
Because
Or Hammer and Hank.
because the reason why I say that because I would like to ask them. I've watched up on them. I don't know if I could have done what they did, know what they've been through, and I watched Jackie Robinson would do. Hank Aaron, people don't forget. I was telling people this all the time. People were threatening to kill him if he broke the record.
Yep.
They were
Yep.
threatening to kill him, and I just told my wife, I said, I don't. I believe that those men, all three of them, even Malcolm X, you know, I'm not agreeing with theology, but even Malcolm X, those men were strong, mega eggers, mega eggers. You know, uh, I knew said three, but now I'm just thinking, because I just want to know, this is the thing. Us as black people have been through a lot. And so you know how they had Top Gun. Well, the original Top Gun was Tuskegee Airmen. There's a fact. And I shared this on my wall. And
Yep.
even though I'm
Yep.
conservative, some people are trying to discredit it. And I said, no, I had to go and I'm like, no, listen, you're not going to do that. Just because
Multiple Crota gears.
the Navy went off that. That's when they got their Top Gun from those guys that be black. And they think the Top Gun was Navy guys first. And I said, no, 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 no. So, anyway, that's I know I said more than three, but I would just let her just pick them as asking, like, how'd you deal with this stuff? Because I know, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it.
Yep. 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 You mentioned two more questions for you. Well, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but what are 3 bits of financial advice you would give my listeners? Because this is, once again, a financial channel.
Financial advice, I would give people, the first thing is to learn how to invest, which I'm not really good at that because I lost a lot of money in 2008. And
I
I
can help
just,
you with that, Will.
yeah, but, hear me?
I can help you with the money. I can help you with the investing part, definitely.
Yeah, and then, but the really thing is to make sure you know where your money's going. Know, have a budget. Know, and it's simple. Don't spend more money than you kept coming in. So many people, and don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Live within your means and be content. That's nothing about the manosphere. These people, they're never content. They're telling men that, you gotta have this, it's hedonism. It's all about self-pleasure and stuff. That's it. I lost everything back in 2000. We lost everything. Hospital closed down, lost everything, and we built back nicely. Praise the Lord. But yeah, those things you probably got more. You probably got better advice than me. But yeah,
No, I mean your advice is absolutely solid. I mean, I would just say avoid credit card debt. Like
oh,
22% APY for interest rates. People, it's impossible to find an investment that gives you 22% of a return, but the credit cards will charge you 22% interest and literally steal your money blind. So I would say avoid credit card debt. I would say also production is what you want to do. One of your production is try to find a career that pays you a salary that's comfortable enough basically for you to never have to worry about money. So as an engineer, I mean, I push science, technology, engineering, healthcare, math, law, and finance for college degrees. But you don't. But I mean, you can join the U.S. military, and if you invest your money the correct way, you're good to go. If you don't want to go the college route, you can learn a trade. Will both your sons learn trades? I mean, I know I work with electricians and elevator operators that make over $300,000 a year.
mhm.
So take education seriously. And I would say the last bit of advice I'm gonna give. This whole podcast has had a lot of a relationship standpoint. I'll say, fellas, take your time getting married, and that you want to find out who you are and what kind of woman you're looking for. But marriage is the ultimate wealth cheat code, period. And if you marry the right woman, or ladies, you marry the right man, if both of you guys have the mindset that we're going to build this thing together, you can amass so much wealth. It is flat out insane. So that's the advice I'll give you. And the last question, Will, because like I said, we're getting a little long on time. I want to be respectful of your time and everything.
We're good, bro.
Yep. When God calls you home and your time on earth is past, what do you want your legacy to be?
That I love God and I love people. That's it. That I love God and that I love people. If I'm doing that, I'll have a good legacy. And
Nice.
that's it.
Nice. Short and to the point and very powerful. That is honestly the recipe for generational success. Like I said, I've interviewed, I can't tell you how many millionaires on my podcast, and it's very interesting because those are the two of the qualities I find a lot of people. They love people and they love God. They have a relationship with a higher power, and they're married. It's so interesting, Will. Like, I've thoroughly enjoyed this podcast just because you broke it down about masculinity, you broke it down about being a man, you broke it down about men, the red pill community, the Manosphere community, about feminism, and you did not do it from a disrespectful or derogatory place or from a degrading place. And there was so much knowledge wrapped into this podcast. And on top of it, you're a real man. What I mean by that, you're U.S. Army veteran, bodybuilder. You've been happily married for 29 years. You love your wife, your kids. I see what they write about you on social media. Your kids say you're a phenomenal father and you love Christ. Thank you, Will, for this experience. It's been a very powerful one, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. So, all right, everybody, it's your boy Chris. This channel, Financipation, is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. I wanted to change it up a little bit for this one and talk about the red pill manosphere community, because I've done a lot of content in the past about the feminism. I think it's kind of time to talk about some of these low-value, bum, Pookie, and Ray Ray type dudes that are out here in every race. So I thought this was a good one. Everybody, you can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. Will, I'm definitely interested in helping you and your sons build that generational wealth and teaching you like just kind of what types of funds to invest into with the interest rates of over 12%. And everybody, I'm not giving you financial advice on this channel. You can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. By all means, please do your own research with everything that me and Will said on this podcast. And please follow me at www.therealfinancipation.com, Instagram, @thereal_financipation. My Spotify is Financipation, just like it's spelled here in my hoodie, as well as TikTok is Financipation as well. And follow me on my Facebook page as well, Financipation. All right, everybody, take care. It's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe to that channel. And thank you, Will, once again for your service. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Peace.
Peace.